is Daily Blast Live. We're talking about what you're talking about.
You all ready for this?
This is a sham.
No.
Y'all, just stop.
Get real.
Welcome to DBL. How is everyone today? Good?
We're doing good.
Yeah, we're doing good. All right. And how is everyone in the audience? We're great, Tori. Good. And you guys, all right. We're actually starting today with a very controversial topic, but it's one that has become what we call a flashpoint, right, in the culture wars. It's a very simple question that I really want you guys at home to think about as well. So here's the question. Can you be an ally of trans people, but still be against kids medically transitioning before adulthood? And at what age is it appropriate to start teaching kids about things like gender identity? Now, this is being brought up by us because it was a topic that Bill Maher talked about on his show last week. Let's take a look at that first.
Why does a 4-year-old come in, and instead of teaching them the colors, you're telling them, pick your pronoun?
Well, yeah.
Where on earth did that come from? And who told us it was going to be imposed on children?
Well,
it's
that's
all
the
about
thing.
Identity. It's all about being queer or trans. I mean, children can't understand that stuff. Not in kindergarten.
And you say that as a queer.
I honestly, I don't want to teach 5-year-olds about being gay. I think it's wait a little bit. And they'll pick it up anyway. It's not like they can't watch the TV.
Interesting. So what do you all think of this? And can you be pro-trans again and still think it's not a great idea for kids to take things like puberty blockers or go through surgery before adulthood? On the show, we're well known for being nuanced. We're going to continue with that. Erica, what do you think about this? Can you be pro-trans and still think I want some regulation for prepubescent kids?
Well, I think if we're asking about allyship, it would be about what the definition of allyship is to a person who is proclaiming to be an ally in any regard versus what allyship means to the group that is actually being affected. When you look at the definition of allyship, it's about advancing the causes of marginalized groups because marginalized groups by nature are a small segment of the population whose voices will also be much smaller than the greater demographic, right? I think as an ally in any regard, it's not my responsibility to say anything. When you're talking about marginalized groups who are oppressed by greater society in general, the last thing that is needed to advance the efforts is open lines of communication in order to diminish what their plight or what the issues that are happening within their community are. I take issue with anyone jumping in on these conversations because it's not as though people who are in these groups or demographics have just gotten here yesterday, where most of the people who are the loudest in the ethos have just gotten here yesterday. So there are testimony teachers and experts and doctors who can speak to this cause, who can speak to these issues with far more intellect and depth than voicing your opinion because of something that you think that may not even affect you or anyone that you know.
Talk about nuance. That was well said.
How about if you have children? Are you allowed to have the conversation?
If you're a child, everyone's allowed to have their conversation. Anyone can say whatever they want, but we're talking about allyship.
Right.
I'm talking about the definition of allyship.
At what point do you break that allyship just when you're concerned about your own children, not about marginalized groups? Because I would argue everyone except a white male is a marginalized group in some sort or another, some more than others. Women are a marginalized group, right? That's half the country. That's half the people.
More than half, actually.
Right. So everyone, I think, is somehow marginalized other than the white man. I'm not trying to be like, I'm not trying to do that.
Straight white male.
Straight white male. That's exactly what I'm saying. So I have children. It's not about allyship or demographic, which I want to be an ally to everybody. Women, black people, trans, all of that. But I'm worried about my family first. So I have questions that I'd like to put on the table without the label of being transphobic, homophobic, racist, whatever we're talking about. Because like you said, if we lose that communication, where are we?
Right.
What do we, I want to know what's happening. If my children want to transition, I want to know as much information as I can about that. I want to say, hey, is it cool that my son is 6 years old and he's transitioning? Are you a doctor? Could I speak to you about this? What are the repercussions? What are the pros? What are the cons? Without being labeled something that I'm not. I'm just a parent that's looking out out for the best interest in his children. But you can't have that conversation about anything taboo these days without getting that label on you. I'm sure people are writing in right now and they're like, oh, poor white male, Jeff thinks he's this, people don't understand that, and it's very tough to have it on television. Okay,
Sure.
let me just put that out there.
Sure.
So I don't know what I'm saying because I'm walking on a super tight rope right now, and I'll stop talking.
Well, no, I think, but what you're saying, I'm talking about allyship. If you had a child who came to you and talked about wanting to transition, that puts you into the actual conversation because it directly affects you and your family. When we're the question was, can you be an ally and still be opposed to kids transitioning? And the reason why we know that people are opposed to kids transitioning and calling themselves allies or saying that, you know, they're down for whatever cause is because of the negativity that is coming through in the greater conversation. So I'm talking about allyship, not about people who are being directly affected.
So can you be an ally as well as have questions?
I think that if you consider yourself an ally to any marginalized group, then it is definitely not a part of allyship to throw in the things that the opposition are absolutely talking about in that way. If you want to invite doctors and experts on to have more educated conversations about these topics, that's allyship. Amplifying a platform. But if you're just going on to Twitter and saying, I can't believe that, 6-year-olds are doing whatever, and you don't have not even one example of what you're speaking of, but you want to call yourself an ally, you need to look up the definition of allyship.
Right, and you made a great point, because somehow people throw me, and I'm just being personal in this, they'll throw me into that group, right? They'll throw me into that Trump group, because it's easy to label someone, but I'm trying to have a conversation, and I'm trying to be an ally, as well as look out for my family.
I think our audience sees that, though.
I don't think so.
I think people can do that even if you breathe.
I know, but that's the point I'm trying to make. You can't throw everybody in the same barrel and then just go on with your life when you don't have children, when you don't know anybody trans, when you have no idea what you're talking about, and then have 600 emails come in and write my boss about me. It's like, that's what I'm talking about. You can't have that conversation. I'm sorry you hogged up a
No. I appreciate that. I just want to ask you, you also have kids here, Al, and I hear this a lot.
I do.
It's trendy. I want to change because I want to be a they because it's trendy. And this happens to be a big social influence. And they do take into account if you're being influenced by social components when you want to take the blockers and things like that. What do you think about the trendy conversation?
Well, somebody that taught middle school for 5 years, I find it plausible. It's the period in your life when you have questions not about just your sexuality, of your gender, about everything. What are you going to do with this life? How do you identify with your siblings? Who are you going to marry? What are you going to do? It's a period in your life where you are just kind of coming into the world. You're leaving childhood and you're starting to understand that, wait a second, I'm going to be in this world by myself. I need to figure out, how do I feel inside? Who am I attracted to? Who do I feel like I could love? I think when we have these conversations, Jeff, to your point, it was so interesting because you and Erica actually had allyship in what you were both saying.
Yeah.
I don't even think
I agree.
I did.
I agree.
Jeff, what you're saying is, I want to have these conversations, but what the real question is where are you going to have these conversations? When you have them on Bill Maher, as soon as somebody like Mr. Sullivan says they're using 4-year-olds, check out right there.
Right.
Because that is hyperbole used by people to enrage people. Nobody is taking a 4-year-old in and a doctor's like, sure, let's start cutting off body parts. That does not happen.
You're absolutely
anywhere.
right. Well said.
That is a way to scare people. I have been through this. I have lived through this with somebody I love. They are thriving, have been for 15 years. Everything is fine. I'll be attending their wedding in May. I already bought the Airbnb, 10 people in the house. It's going to be a good time. It was done thoughtfully by my let me stop, it was done thoughtfully by somebody close to me that took them to where they needed to go to have an expert have these conversations. Right. And that's what you're talking about. And what Erica's saying is after you've had those conversations, I got your back. You guys have the conversations with a doctor, and then we'll move forward. What you don't do is have a conversation with somebody on Twitter that literally does not know what they're talking about. They're just, you're literally chiming into a conversation where a person that is not an expert has a platform and is using it to yell
to try to be self-righteous.
Right. To get attention.
Yes.
You get. I mean, there are people like Jordan Peterson that made their career off of not saying people's pronouns. That's why he is famous now. He is a mega millionaire because because that's what a lightning rod this topic is. But he doesn't care about it because he can't care, because it does not affect him. It is something out there in the ethos. So when we start having these conversations, just have somebody that maybe has some skin in the game. And if they don't have skin in the game, maybe have 16, 20 years of experience in the medical field, and then we can have those conversations.
Ooh, thoughtful, nuanced, wonderful.
Well done, bro.
Well done, all of you. Well done, all of you. We'll be right back. It's a new year and DBL is all the talk.
Let's get it going.
We had a lot to talk about last year.
I'm flexing every day.
And we're not stopping in 2023.
I'll see you guys on the flip side.
Jeff is right, Tori.
Here, I don't need the comments because I don't care about them. And I'm not trying to be mean at all because I appreciate the good ones. I don't care about the bad ones. But what I do appreciate is Erica and Al and Tori. Thank you guys, because it's tough to have these conversations sometimes, right? And I think everyone out there, or if you are in the chat room, you're probably feeling some sort of way on one side or the other. But my whole thing about this is like, we gotta have these conversations. Whether it's about race or sexuality, we gotta have these difficult situations. The more we start labeling and pushing each other away, the more our society is going to start breaking off into its own groups, and we see what happens when people break off in their own groups and do their own thing.
Right, and I totally understand that. I think when I said I'm talking about allyship, I do think it's very important because I do consider myself a ally for the trans community. I am I'm opening up a gala for trans youth in just a few weeks, and a big part of it I asked them, like, what was important in this moment? Because I can get up there as someone who doesn't necessarily have, quote, skin in the game and say whatever I feel or think. But at the end of the day, if it's allyship, that means that there should be a forwarding of the current agenda and the things that are the most pertinent to that community. And I think when we have these conversations, a lot of times, that is being taken out. Not us as a group, but we as a society at whole. The voice of the actual community gets taken out and then it gets manipulated, and I think that's very dangerous. And to the idea of trend too, I do want to bring this up because what the kids are learning right now is how to be allies.
In the cases of the 45th and 46th president, and now the most recent vice president, the Presidential Records Act has come up a number of times in headlines related to these documents. So what is it, and can someone actually face consequences for breaking it? We turn to these sources here to verify. U.S. Code defines presidential records as materials.
Welcome back. Every day it seems like there's another headline about classified documents being found. Uh-oh.
Do you have any?
Yeah, I was just going to make a joke there. Where they don't pull
You didn't commit.
No, I just ended it so soon.
Glad you're back.
Yesterday, former Vice President Mike Pence revealed that about a dozen documents marked classified were found at his home in Indiana after a search last week. So if you're keeping track, classified documents have been found in the homes of former President Trump, President Biden, and now former Vice President Pence. We've also learned that former President Jimmy Carter had found classified documents in his home after leaving office, but they were turned over a while ago. Finally, CNN is reporting that former Presidents Clinton, Obama, and Bush all turned over their classified records after leaving office. So, what do we make of this latest disclosure, and what is going on that so many people seem to be holding on to classified material after leaving office? I believe that once this has become everybody, no one cares anymore. This is a nothing burger anymore. It was a big deal with Trump because of the intent, if he wanted to give it over, if he was cooperating. But now that it's found here, it's found there, it's found there, no one can use this as a weapon in the political game.
Doesn't it being a nothing burger make it super scary now?
Not really, because it's diluted. Everyone's going to have 6 pages here, 3 pages there, and not everything is top classified.
But all we need is one. All we need is one. That could be catastrophic. And that's the issue. I think you're exactly right, Tori. Everybody's like, well, Trump did it, Bush did it. Yes, they did, but that doesn't make it right. And I don't know, again, Well, we have these people that we elect as presidents, and I guess they can face no sanctions now. So what do we do with this? So we just classified documents, just laminate them and put them on, make them a coaster? I don't.
Do we change the system of how we deal with classified documents? Clearly something's wrong, right?
Well, yeah, something is wrong. And I had this conversation with my husband because he's been on me to clean out our closets and organize our home. And I'm like, our former presidents don't do that. They don't even know what's in their closets. So why should I?
Totally. Yeah. Totally. That's a good excuse. What do you think, Jeff? Is this sloppy? Does it make a big difference now, or is this a nothing burger?
When it comes to pronouns with, sorry, politics. Sorry, politics. Okay.
Your two favorites.
Hold on, here we go. Oh, politics. Yeah, I don't think anything's going to happen. I understand we're laughing about this, and you're like, what should we do with this? Make a joke about it? Yeah, because nothing's going to happen. You know why? Because one from each party has now got it, and now that more are going to trickle out, it's like, well, listen, are we going to put this guy in jail, this guy in jail, this guy in jail? Now you got to put everybody in jail. And now everyone's like, you know what? It's not that important. And that's really what it is.
Absolutely. Cancels each other.
I'm worried it'll be a situation that one of these days something terrible will happen, and that's when it'll get serious. And it's sad,
and then it'll be too late. That's a good point. No,
like
it's a very good point. Let us know what you guys think coming up on DBL. You remember him from Clueless, rolling with the homies. Now Jeremy Sisto stars in the hit show FBI. He's telling us all about the latest season that's coming up next.
In the cases of the 45th and 46th president, and now the most recent vice president, the Presidential Records Act has come up a number of times in headlines related to these documents. So what is it, and can someone actually face consequences for breaking it? We turn to these sources here to verify. U.S. Code defines presidential records as materials or portions of materials, quote, created or received by the president or the president's immediate staff or a unit or individual of the executive office of the president whose function is to advise and assist the president in the course of conducting activities which relate to or have an effect upon the carrying out of the constitutional, statutory, or other official or ceremonial duties of the president. Law since the Watergate scandal, the Presidential Records Act means those official documents and records of presidents and vice presidents belong to us, the citizens, not the official's personal property. The National Archives lays out guidance for how administrations should keep track of these records and hand them off upon leaving the White House. However, Professor Michael Greenberger explains there's nothing baked into the law to force an administration to follow it.
The assumption, I'm sure, was when they passed the Presidential Records Act that once they declared the rule, no president would be so brazen as to say, I'm not going to follow the rule.
That's why there's also discussion of the Espionage Act. Violating that is a crime. So that's what the Department of Justice invoked in the warrant to retrieve documents from former President Trump's Mar-a-Lago estate when they say he failed to comply with the Presidential Records Act.
The Espionage Act says that the president cannot make these highly classified documents available to the public because that would endanger the national safety.
With your Verify, I'm Abby Larico.
Welcome back to DBL. He was a 90s heartthrob, and today he's one of America's favorite special agents. Earlier, we spoke with the Jeremy Sisto. Take a look. Please welcome to DBL, Jeremy Sisto. All right, so it's been 28 years since Clueless. Do you still get recognized for that movie in particular?
Oh, yes, of course. I do indeed. Oh, it's amazing. That movie has transferred from one generation to the next. It's amazing that it's still relatable despite the differences in culture. But can you believe that Cher didn't have an Instagram account? I was thinking about
shocking.
That's true. That's shocking. She was like the original influencer.
I mean, that closet alone, I still dream of having something like that, you know?
But perhaps that's why it was slightly futuristic, so it keeps hitting these next generations.
There's a resurgence. Like, I was in Target the other day, and they have Clueless themed, like, chapsticks for girls and makeup bags. And then our babysitter the other day was wearing a Clueless t-shirt. She's 14. I said, have you seen Clueless? Big resurgence. Congratulations.
So what's the craziest fan encounter that you've had?
Well, I mean, just in general, you can see it in so many people's faces when they approach me. They just want to ask me to roll with the homies. I know they do. I give it up very easily now, but they don't want to bother me. I can tell. They just can't help themselves. So I lean into it and I give them what they want right off the bat.
Yeah,
sometimes I'm wrong and then it's just awkward.
Jerry, I got to ask, your kids are 10 and 13. Obviously, they don't babysit Sam's kids. But do they get impressed with any of the roles you had, like in Clueless, or anything that you've done embarrass them in any sort of way?
Well, when my daughter was about that age of that picture, she did dress up as her and her friends dressed up as the Clueless characters for Halloween. But she's getting over that. But I think she has fun with the idea that her dad was that ridiculous kid. And my son watches FBI with me, gets very, very invested. Although I think he likes Zico more than me, which is fine.
Absolutely. All right, let's talk about FBI. As you said, your show FBI gets millions of viewers every single week. Did you have to go through like cool FBI training for the role?
Well, we did get to hang out with some agents who I'm still friendly with and get to see sort of how that whole machine works. But no, actual FBI training, we don't actually do the job of the FBI's, which is probably better.
It's called acting, I love. It's called acting.
Right, thank goodness. So your character in FBI has to juggle parenthood and his high-stress job. Do you relate to any of the dad struggles you portray on the show? And why does it look like you're like illustrated? What is this filter that you have on? I feel like you look like an illustration.
It's not on my, I mean, in my camera, it doesn't look like that, but it does. Yeah, I look like a cartoon version of myself. I like it. So what did I say? What do I have in common with, I guess, well, the endless love that one has for their child. I relate to that. And also the love and gratitude I have for the job I have. He has that same thing. He's dealt with a lot of tough stuff over the last couple of seasons, and he's not perfect. He's just human.
Wow, that's so cool that your son watches that with you.
I know.
Yeah,
Can you
I'm like,
imagine?
Daddy's on TV, and he's like, where are the Skittles? That's cool. That's cool. Maybe one day. So before we go, we have to ask you about your musical Instagram posts. You released an album back in 2012. Any chances of another album? Because I see a guitar right next to you.
Ooh.
Yeah, I mean, sure. My alter ego, Escape Taylor, could make an appearance. I've been trying to get. I've been trying to get better and better at guitar over the last couple of years, which is great. I'm proud of myself. But sometimes I find myself now with players that are just so much better. I was with a guy yesterday who said, oh, that oven fan is a B flat.
Oh,
and it didn't even sound like a note to me. So I was like, I should probably quit.
Do you think you could play us out maybe a little something and grab that guitar?
I mean, it's not plugged in, so it would be, I could show you just the motion of it.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
That's good enough.
Roll it.
Yeah, rolling with the whole
You won't actually hear me, so I'll do like, you can put sound over it later to make it sound.
We'll make the sound.
Okay.
You do the
Ready?
thing, and Tori will do the sound.
Oh, Lord.
There we go.
2, 1. Sisto!
Working on my guitar face. It's not great, but I'm
I
getting
saw the guitar face.
We were hoping he'd come back, but now we're not so sure.
He's not coming back. He's gone.
DBL Nation, you can watch FBI Tuesdays on CBS. It also streams on Paramount Plus. Thank you, Jeremy. We'll be right back.
For more than 2 years, millions of Americans masked up in an effort to keep from getting COVID-19. The data from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention shows wearing a mask could help us breathe in healthy air and prevent respiratory viruses while we're in close, crowded environments. But now with lower infection rates, masks are mostly a thing of the past. Some people are saying that wearing a mask for 2 flu seasons has now made us more susceptible to getting sick. So let's verify, did wearing masks decrease our immunity? Our sources are the CDC, Piedmont Health, Dr. Jane Morgan, and UNMC Nebraska Medicine. Now, this kind of question comes from something scientists call the hygiene hypothesis. It's the idea that people who are exposed to a variety of germs in their childhood develop better immunity. Tia Neely, a Piedmont family medicine physician, tells us our bodies maintain a memory that if we are exposed again in the future, we are ready to fight that infection. And according to Dr. Kelly Cockott with UNMC Nebraska Medicine, it won't matter how long we wore a mask, our bodies will still protect themselves.
In general, our immune system responds quickly to new pathogens. It doesn't weaken over time. And if you've been exposed to other viruses, again, thinking about RSV or something like that's more familiar to people like chickenpox, right? If you've had some exposures in the past, your immune system doesn't forget that all the time.
The experts say even while we are all masked up, we still made it to the grocery store, got out there and walked the dog, or headed out in other ways, which is enough exposure to outside bacteria for your body to function at its best. But what about children who may not have been in school or who were born during the peak of the pandemic? Here's what Dr. Jane Morgan had to say.
When we began to remove our masks, certainly it contributed to the rebound of RSV, not because there was more RSV, but because there were more children who had never been exposed to it. And so now it spread more widely than it would have previously because those children would have had some immunity. So in other words, it caught up in 1 year with 2 years of infections.
So we can verify that's false. Masks did not decrease our immunity.
Republicans now have control of the House of Representatives, prompting immediate curiosity about what kinds of policies they might propose. Verify viewer Michael wanted to know if it was true that one proposed policy was a national sales tax. So, Michael, let's verify. Here are our sources. Right now in America, sales taxes are only implemented at the state and local level. The federal government gets most of its money from income tax. But a bill recently proposed by a Republican congressman from Georgia would abolish the income tax, as well as the payroll tax and the estate tax. It would then replace them by implementing a national sales tax with an effective rate of 30%. For comparison, the highest sales tax in the country right now is in Tennessee, and that's roughly 9.5%. Similar bills with the same name have been introduced numerous times before. None of the last 4 versions ever went so far as a vote. But we can verify, yes, there is a proposed bill to institute a national sales tax. However, even if this one received a vote and passed the House, it would have to get through the Democrat-led Senate and signed by President Biden. Biden said in a speech that he would veto the bill if it got that far. With your Fast Fact, I'm Casey Decker.
Welcome back. If you're looking to renovate your bathroom in 2023, there are some essential design choices you should be keeping in mind. We're talking about it in today's tips, sponsored by Jacuzzi. First, keep things tidy. Bathrooms are much more relaxing when they aren't cluttered. Next, keep your lighting options functional and bright rather than going for the best looking fixtures. And finally, consider using a darker shade of paint to create a more peaceful and intimate setting. If you want to start your remodel, Jacuzzi can help you do it in the right way. Jacuzzi offers an unmatched, stress-free remodeling process. So visit jacuzzibathremodel.com or call 1-800-523-1523. When I bought my house, it had been painted blueberry bright blue, and we kept it.
Okay.
The bathroom.
I want to see pictures.
It's cool. We'll see you tomorrow, guys.
Good story.